Dude, Ram has just dropped some serious news on us, and they're calling it the Ram Revolution.
It's a revolution, baby. So we did cover this briefly in a post that went up just a few days ago, and the Revolution appears to be Ram's answer to the Ford Lightning and to the Chevrolet Silverado EV.
Yes, it's and they said this in a statement that they're talking about the Ram 1500 battery electric vehicle, so BEV, and it goes head to head, like you said, against the volume players in the field, right? The F-150 Lightning, the Silverado EV. Let's not talk about the Hummer EV because it's a little bit more specialized off-road.
Right, it's actually a very different vehicle, but we could talk about the Silverado, we could talk about the Ford.
So in this video, we're going to let you know all the news, also compare the specs. We don't have a lot of specs on this Ram Revolution.
Yeah, but we do have a couple images.
Yes, so this is the first one. So this is the styling direction where they're going with, right?
Right.
And what do you think about this kind of a silhouette, this profile here?
Now, if you're looking at this, guys, you may notice that it's a very similar type of buttress to the Chevrolet that recently came out. So it doesn't really look like a regular back of cab design, and that bed does look rather short.
And I think what manufacturers, not just Ram, but others, like you said, I think what they're trying to do with electric trucks is also make them aerodynamic, right? Efficiency is huge because batteries, as good as they are right now, they just don't hold as much energy as a gasoline or a diesel truck, right?
Right.
So they need aerodynamics and look kind of a swoopy front end. And I actually increased the exposure on this already.
Yeah.
And this is as much as we can see.
Yeah, you should have seen Andre tinkering away, trying to find the secrets that were hidden. So a couple things about this. First of all, the platform is unique, and we're going to get to that in just a moment. Earlier, Stellantis did a big announcement with taking their entire fleet, basically, and electrifying everything. And that was also part of the Ram. But at the time, they didn't announce the name. So we weren't 100% sure that this was going to happen because there's been so many changes with Stellantis and then FCA before then. But by putting out the Revolution name, yeah, indeed. And
as you point out,
EV.
Rev EV is part of it.
Yeah.
So that's clever, I guess.
It is clever. So at the same time, this came out just a few weeks back. We found out that Stellantis did a patent, actually a trademark request at the U.S. Trademark Office or Patent Office, the Mexico's and also Canada's office as well, around the same time. So this is a vehicle that looks like it's going to be poised to go North and South America. Big production.
That makes sense. Bam, they also dropped this on us. So this is the second image and the final image of what Ram has just communicated.
Right.
And it's a chassis.
Right. Now, we got another image of that earlier on, but that was a really rough image. This is much more detailed, and there's a few things we noticed right off the bat.
Yeah, so first of all, it appears to be combining, of course, the truck's frame with batteries, which makes a lot of sense, and we'll show you how it compares to the F-150 in a second.
Right, and also the Chevrolet. We can
But Nathan and I noticed this. The front frame rails up here, if you can zoom in a little bit, they're kind of at an angle. This is exactly what Ram 1500 currently has.
Right.
And that's also for crash prevention and absorption of energy.
That's correct.
Right? And it appears there may be an electric motor, we're not sure, right? Maybe a controller. Controller, potentially. And looks like maybe independent suspension in the back. It's not completely positive.
Now, on the other image that they sent, the earlier one, it did show independent suspension in the rear.
Sense.
Yeah,
okay.
And it totally makes sense. The other thing is that Andre can show you just by pointing where the body section would go and then where we believe the bed's going to go.
Yeah, so the cab, and you can see kind of these mounts right here, and right here. And this is probably a crew cab section, right?
Right.
And they have this, like, I don't know, little rendering here. And then in the back, here, and here, is probably where the bed would be. And it looks like a 5.5 foot kind of standard half-ton bed.
Right, and that's what is available on the current Ram 1500. So we don't expect there to be anything revolutionary, sorry, pardon the name, about the bed in terms of size, although design could be very different because that's something like, for instance, Chevrolet did. Chevrolet went crazy with their redesign on their bed, and they actually have a couple different bed options. We do not know whether or not Ram's going to do that, but we can show you the differences right off the bat, at least with the platform. So why don't we get started with that?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you're talking about this Chevy Silverado EV.
Right.
There's, of course, the Lightning. And I'm throwing the Rivian R1T. It's already on sale.
Right.
It's a little bit smaller than the half-ton truck, technically.
It's closer to a midsize in terms of size, but capability, it's way up there.
Yeah, and its capability in the half-ton segment. So we can look at that. Here's what Ford's chassis looks like. Here, make it a little bit easier for you.
Yeah, now if you look at that, and this is what I remember hearing from Ford, is that they wanted to share as many components as they could with the regular F-150 in order to make this vehicle more accessible, less expensive.
And make it quicker, right?
Right.
Quicker to market.
To build it quicker to market. And the frame itself really does look a lot like an F-150 frame that has batteries.
Yeah, and once again, cab mounting points, bed mounting points, very standard.
Yeah.
Right? Independent suspension, controllers, motor, so it's four-wheel drive, and the Ram seems to be going the same direction as well.
It does, but the Ram is very different. It's actually closer to the Chevrolet. It's a mix between them because the Chevrolet setup is a full skateboard. So in other words, the skateboard, for those of you who don't know, essentially is batteries and frame all integrated into one. It's the ultimate battery pack that Chevrolet's using, and GMC with their Hummer. So we're going to show you the Hummer platform, and essentially that platform, and that's what you're looking at here, is a fully integrated one where everything is basically sandwiched in together.
Yeah, so this is a Hummer once again, but the Silverado, like you said, is similar.
Is similar.
Besides the big tires.
And the big, huge battery. It's slightly similar.
Exactly. So this is their latest, we think about 200 kilowatt hours. Ram did not mention their battery sizes, their motors, power. They didn't mention any of that.
Now, earlier on, though, during their first press release, they were aiming for a 500-mile range per charge, which would be greater than what we suspect both of these other trucks would be able to do. Will they be able to keep to that? Well, this recent announcement, they didn't say anything about it.
Right, but Ram did say that the Ram Revolution trucks will be available starting in 2024. Mm-hmm. So this is similar to timeline because Chevrolet says 2023.
Right.
They're going to have some first trucks, first editions available.
Right.
And then volume sale in 2024. So that's where Ram is targeting.
I wonder if it's the same thing that they did with the GMC Hummer, right? Because when they brought out the Hummer, they said that it was going to start in 2022. Well, they had, 14?
Well, yeah, they sold like one in December, and then now they're kind of rolling out now.
But yeah, so technically speaking, yes, they started production in 2022, but really it was a 2023. So Ford, they seem to be moving in the right direction in terms of timing. Am I right?
Yeah, and they're kind of building pre-production models. You can see
these are the betas.
These are Ford's images from their Rouge facility, which is an electric facility in Michigan.
It's electric Rouge, essentially. So
not standard Rouge.
It's not part of the Rouge facility, which is, by the way, where they build all F-150s.
Well, at least partially, because also Kansas City is where they built some of the others.
The Rouge has always been kind of
huge. It's been huge for them.
It's a massive plant.
So Ford is targeting May or June timeframe for this year for the F-150, and they have fully automated testing. This is what calibrating the payload measurement.
Yeah, that machine, by the way, which looks really badass and kind of nerfy light, it's built to press down, I believe.
And actually calibrate because they have height sensors, so it calibrates the payload measurement system on the Ford.
Right. So we have the intel on Ford, pretty much what everything that we have here. And this is, by the way, available on TFLtruck.com.
Exactly.
So we are going to add a new story about the Revolution. The story that's on TFL Car about the Ram Revolution, which is on Ask Nathan, basically that just talks about the timing of the naming and all the trademark information therein, and then a little bit about what they initially said about range and power, but very little. This next story that we're going to have will have more information, on top of what we already have. So let's go back to the images of the,
the Ram.
Yeah.
Before we close down, I just want to say this is what they're shooting for, right? Competition. This is the Chevy, 400 miles of range, 350 kilowatts of charging. Charging speed about 100 miles gained in 10 minutes, and 664 horsepower. Ford is about 563 horsepower, and of course Rivian is at 835 horsepower.
I think
this is where Ram needs to be.
Right. So essentially, if Ram can somehow go between, say, 600 and 800 horsepower, they'll be I know, it's crazy
That's
saying
ridiculous
that. I know,
already.
but it's electricity.
Yeah.
Everything's different. And if they're able to somehow get in the middle of the payload and keep the pricing down, and that's the one thing we just do not know of whether or not they'll be competitive in pricing, but we assume they will be.
Well, the Silverado first edition is 105 grand.
Right, exactly.
So yeah, that's huge. So yeah, so let's close this down as soon as we learn more. And actually, Roman and I are going to be in the Chicago Auto Show. We're going to hope to interview a lot of Ram, even executives and other representatives. We're going to ask them everything possible that we can get.
Now, just real quickly before we sign out, guys, what do you think? Look at these. These things have got to be like, what, 24s?
Let's
maybe?
go 20. We don't
Yeah.
know exactly, but the Chevy did 24s.
They're
so
huge.
I'm trying to look.
There's
They're-
no way we can really.
They're good years.
Yeah, but later on, Andre will probably get really close and look at other
I'll
details.
probably get a microscope.
Yeah, you probably will, and then we'll have that on TFLtruck.com. But what do you guys think of this shape? They're sort of hinting at what the shape is looking like. And one thing I noticed right here, good old-fashioned crease, meaning that it might be a very similar front-end design, or at least hood design, as the current Ram.
Well, yeah, and
Maybe.
I think they want to stay true to their overall, image and what they represent.
Which Ford really did, and Chevrolet didn't really do. So is this going to be in between again? It's a big question. So we want your perspective, guys. What do you guys think?
Yeah, and as always, TFLtruck.com will have all the information we have possible on this.